Welcome to Forum 360 on Fusion, your PBS channel and your Rubber City radio stations. We are co-sponsored by the Shaw Jewish Community Center. This is Leslie Ungar, your host today. Every so often on Forum 360, we turn our attention to this very small country, a country smaller than the state of New Jersey, that gets a Texas size of attention. The only democracy in the Middle East, a country with no oil, but a country that developed the cell phone, voicemail, instant messaging, the defibrillator, and the camera phone chip. Every year, Israel sends the Akron-Canton area their very own emissaries to stay and live and teach and learn in our communities. For the next year, this area will have the pleasure to host a young Israeli couple, Mayana Branigan and Shay Goldenberg, as our shlachim, our ambassadors from Israel. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for coming to Northeast Ohio and for sharing your lives with us.
Thank you for having us.
First, take us back to growing up in Israel. Where did each one of you grow up?
So I grew up in the city. I was born in Givatayim, in a little town near Tel Aviv. And I spent my young life living in cities around Tel Aviv, in the area of Gush Dan. I lived in Givat Shmuel until I was 12, and then we moved to a place called Or Yehuda. And I studied in Ramat Gan. That's where I studied. I majored in music in high school. So I was a city boy.
So you were a city boy. Yes. Okay, we'll leave that for comparisons for later. Now, you grew up where?
So I grew up in a very small and unique community. We were about 30 families. It's called a moshav. It's a very small community.
And tell us, for our listeners and our viewers, what a moshav is.
So a moshav, there are different types of settlements in Israel that have different ideologies. My moshav originally was more communal. The people on the moshav worked together. They worked in a factory. We had a granola factory, or we had different fields. So it's usually very agricultural and more communal than a city. But the moshav that I live on over time became less communal in that sense. People started working off of the moshav. They would go out to work. But there is a very big sense of community, and it was an Orthodox community, so we spent the Shabbat, the seventh day together. Mm-hmm. We would go to synagogue, and there was a very communal feeling in growing up that way.
Now, to many Americans, you're just Israeli. But Israelis come from different countries, different ethnic backgrounds, different languages. What are the roots of each of your families that we want to just say you're Israeli, but tell us about your roots? Shay.
So we are both Sabres. That means that we were born in Israel, both of us. My father.
And can you tell us why you are called Sabres?
Oh, it's a kind of a cactus, which is very known in Israel. And at first, when the country just was conducted, so the Sabra was a symbol for a strong Israeli that walks on the ground and building his country.
And a sabra, the fruit is kind of prickly on the outside.
Exactly.
But what is it in the inside?
And the inside is very sweet.
So is that like an Israeli?
Yes.
Are you prickly on the outside and very tender on the inside?
Everybody said so.
Okay. So you are both sabras.
And my father is also a Sabre. His parents came to Israel from Romania. They escaped the Holocaust and came to Israel, also to a moshav. So he is also from a moshav. And my mother, she moved to Israel. She made aliyah to Israel. She went to Israel when she was 13 from Turkey. So I am both what you call Ashkenazi and Sephardi, which is places that the Judaism tradition came
and
from.
And Ashkenazi would be coming from the European countries.
Yes.
And Sephardic would be coming from?
From Asia and Africa countries.
Okay. And Aliyah, when you say she made Aliyah, making Aliyah means what?
To move to Israel from another place. So it's to return home, because Israel is the home of the Jewish people. So that's why it's considered Aliyah, to go up. You are going up to Israel.
Okay, so you are from both Sephardic and Ashkenazi background.
Yes.
And your roots are,
So
Mayana.
my mother is from the Virgin Islands, from the American Virgin Islands, from the island of St. Croix, which is very beautiful. She grew up there, and at a very young age, she was introduced to Judaism. She actually went to synagogue with a friend, and she had she felt a very special connection to Judaism. And then as she grew older and she traveled to California, she actually decided to convert, and she converted and made Aliyah to Israel. Actually, Aliyah, the reason why we're the only, immigration happens in many countries. The reason why we say that we're, like Shay was saying, going up into, is actually from a verse in the Bible about Abraham. In the Bible, there's one verse that said that he goes up into Israel and down into Egypt when he leaves Israel. And that's why we say Aliyah until this day. And so I was raised in Israel, and my father is actually from Connecticut, not too far.
How funny.
Yes.
So really, saying someone's Israeli can mean 1,000 different things about their roots, their families, their uncles, aunts, mothers, fathers.
Yes, I feel like there is an image of what it is to be Israeli, and we may see that on the news, or we might know one Israeli, and that's what Israeli is. But really, when you walk in the streets of Israel, people are from so many different countries. All my friends' parents are from different countries. They eat different food. They have interesting different customs and different religions. If you walk in the street of Jerusalem, you have Arabs walking in the street, and Jews, and Christians, and Druze, many different religions. And that's what makes Israel very, very special.
It's a very diverse country.
And we don't always think of how diverse it is. But tell us, a Drew is what?
It's a very special religion. We don't know many about this religion because it's very secret to the people who are Druze. Mainly in the north of Israel. They live in the north of Israel. They are very connected to the land. They are very patriotic to Israel. They serve in the army, and they are wonderful people.
And they're very, very welcoming.
Very welcoming.
Very welcoming.
I was actually in a Druze home.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And were they very welcoming?
Yes, yes. Some listeners may know that everyone in Israel goes to the army at 18, 19 years old. We understand that most look forward to their service. Did you look forward to going, and in what ways did each of you serve?
So we are interested in that matter because we both served in the two ways that you can serve your country when you are 18. Because serving in the military is mandatory. Usually the men go for a minimum of 3 years and the women for a minimum of 2 years. If you are growing up religiously, you have the choice to contribute to your country in national service. So I went to IDF military service.
Which is the Israeli Defense Force.
The Israeli Defense Force. I served in a combat regiment as an infantry soldier. And afterwards I became a commander and then an officer. So I even served more years than 3 years. I served 4 years and 8 months. And Mayana, she has done national service because she grew up Orthodox, she grew up religiously.
And so your national service consisted of what?
So I decided, well, national service is volunteer work. You volunteer, there are many different options, and usually women who grew up religious can choose this option. And I've had friends that have done many different things, work in hospital, work with children, and I chose to actually work with adults who have different mental retardation. So they had a home, some of them would go out and work, and I would just teach them different living skills and spend time with them and teach them different things. And I thought that was, I think we both feel that just growing up and being a young adult and learning that you have to give back is what's important, giving back to your country, learning responsibility, taking a break from your life and your achievements and your goals, stopping and saying, okay, I'm giving back to my country, this is just for my country. That really changes you as a young adult. And I think both Shay and I believe that the important thing is to give service. It doesn't matter what kind of service, you need to give service. That's what we believe in.
Now, you have just been in the Akron Canton area for about 4 weeks now?
A month. Exactly a month.
Just a month. Now, Mayana, when people hear you, are they surprised that you don't have an accent?
Yes. Well, I'm very lucky because the community that I grew up in was very, very small, and all the parents are American, and we grew up speaking English. So I speak English like an American and Hebrew like an Israeli.
That is really amazing. That is amazing.
And
that
actually,
in itself.
people in Israel actually sometimes don't think I'm a Sabra. They don't think I was born there because I speak English very well.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes, you do. We have been and are going to continue to talk with Mayana Branigan and Shay Goldenberg for the next 2 years or the next year. They haven't decided quite yet. This area will have the pleasure to host this young Israeli couple as our shlachim, our emissaries from Israel. Israel is such a small country. In America, you know, we have grown up that everything is big, big, big. And I truly believe most Americans don't realize how small Israel is. It is the only democracy in the entire Middle East. Tell us, what would you like someone that knows very little about Israel, what would you like someone to know about your country?
We would like them to know a lot about our country. But I can say that it's very, very beautiful, full with history, meaningful history for all religions. And whoever comes can find himself in a desert and in a forest in a driving distance of 2 hours, which is amazing. You can go from the southwest part in Israel to the northwest in 7 hours of drive, and you will go in the way through many beautiful places in nature, and you will change the climate from desert to the sea, to the Dead Sea, which is different and beautiful, and to the north of Israel, which is actually pretty similar to the Cayuga Valley, for example.
Isn't that interesting?
So it's beautiful, and I wish that anyone who hears us will want to speak with us and to learn more about Israel, and then he can reach us, and then we can tell him a lot more about Israel, and maybe convince them to come, because when you see it with your eyes, it's the better way. It's the best way to understand what Israel is like.
That is absolutely true. If you wanted someone to know something about Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, what would it be?
Well, I think that a few things. First of all, I would want people to know that what we see on the media isn't necessarily a reflection of Israel. It's very dangerous to listen to one story. Israel is a lot of different stories and a lot of different people and a lot of different cultures. And a lot of times when people meet me when we're traveling, they can't believe that I'm Israeli. I don't look Israeli to them. I don't sound Israeli. So it's very important to me that people know, first of all, how diverse Israel really is and how many people come from so many different places and have different customs and different beliefs. And that I think that people really want to live in peace and just raise their families just like any other person. And I would like people to listen to the stories of the real people and just have a conversation. I think that's the most important thing to me.
If someone landed in, so far Israel has one airport, so for people to get an idea of how small Israel is, it has one airport in Tel Aviv. If someone landed and they drove to wherever, they drove to Jerusalem, they drove to the beaches, they drove somewhere, what do you think would first surprise them about a first day in Israel?
I think they would be surprised how modern and Western it is. Because you will see McDonald's shop and you will see the traffic, which is full with American cars, and very, very modern and Western. They will feel at home because Israel is like a little model of
and everyone speaks English.
And everyone
pretty much everyone speaks English, right?
That's true.
Right.
We are studying English since we are 9 years old, in 2nd grade. So
you could find the same shops and we listen to the same music and eat the same food. So I think people would be surprised, like Shay said, how modern everything is. And I think Israel has a perfect combination between the old, which is very spiritual and very special. If you go to Jerusalem and you see the old neighborhoods, or if you're in Beersheba, which is very modern today, but you can see the desert and Abraham's well, for instance, and ride on camels. But then the other side of Beersheba is very, very modern. So I think that combination of the old and holy and the modern is what makes Israel very unique.
I think that even today people think that we are riding on camels, which is not.
And really, when Tel Aviv hosts more of the Silicon Valley companies have headquarters there than any other place in the world except for Silicon Valley.
That's true.
But yeah, you're still on camels, right? But you're on camels talking on the newest cell phone.
We are on camels using Waze.
There you go.
We can go from place to place using Waze, which is an Israeli development of GPS, very smart system that you can know the traffic in advance.
And that one won't say disconnected, right? Like GPS does? That one won't. So you made a decision somewhere along the line in the last year or so that you wanted to spend a year or two of your lives coming to America and teaching us and learning at the same time about Israel. How did you choose Akron? Or how did Akron and the Canton area choose you?
We are a couple. That means that we were searching for a couple emissary, and Akron was our favorite option because it combines between working with the Jewish community and working with the non-Jewish community, and working in two communities, in Akron and in Canton. We are working in both communities. So for us, because we like challenges, so we wanted our shlichut, our emissary, to be as interesting as it can be. So.
Can you give us an example of something that you would do in the non-Jewish community in your role as emissaries?
Well, we actually already began a few different collaborations with high schools, Catholic high schools, and Catholic universities such as Walsh University. And we actually, in the universities, we work with different professors that are actually incredible and so amazing and welcoming. They want us to come into their classrooms and talk about different things about Israel. We have, for instance, a class about innovation and entrepreneurship. So Israel is a perfect candidate for that. So I'm very passionate about women entrepreneurs. So we're going to go into economics class and talk about entrepreneurship in Israel and culture and diversity, and just with every professor, according to their class, you know, give our intake on what's going on in Israel. We're actually going into a nursing school, talking about the healthcare system, going to high schools, talking about the Holocaust. So we might be the first Israelis that someone actually meets.
Yes.
And they could be young, you know, in high school, which I think is very important for them to meet a real person and hear a real story. And actually, that's very, very exciting, and that's like one of my favorite parts of the position.
Now, what did you hear about Northeast Ohio before you came? Whether it was our weather, our basketball team with an Israeli coach, just for you. I mean, can we do any more for you than give you a professional basketball team? But what did you hear about our area before you came?
So I think what we didn't hear enough is how wonderful the people are, because the people, I think it's a Midwest quality. Everybody is so nice, whether if it's in the community or people in the streets and in the supermarkets. Everybody is so welcoming, they're so nice. If you ask them questions, they will leave whatever they do and answer your questions the best way that they can, which is amazing. And we did hear about the winter. Everybody is talking with us about the winter, which we are very afraid of.
And you're looking forward to it, right?
Looking forward is
I'm looking
one way
forward
to say
it. I
it.
want to see a snowy Christmas.
It's beautiful. I don't tell you the snow is beautiful.
I like to ski, so I would love to enjoy this. But we are scared. We never experienced winter like this. And of course, we heard about the basketball team. I'm a big fan of basketball.
Isn't everyone in Israel a big fan of
Everybody
basketball?
in Israel. Basketball is the most popular sports in Israel, together with soccer, which we call football. But soccer and basketball are the most popular sports in Israel. And Maccabi Tel Aviv is one of the best basketball teams in Europe. And we are a big fan of David Blatt, obviously.
I used to wake up every night to watch the games.
You have to get up, because you guys have to like get up in the middle of the night to watch the games,
I
right?
used to set an alarm clock for 4 a.m. in the morning and wake up, see the game, return to sleep a little bit, and go to the university.
Sounds like, now you won't have to do that.
Now I won't have to do it.
You can do it in real time. Now, here's the really important question. You will now be together basically 24/7. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you are going to be together.
Yeah.
That's togetherness in working, in socializing, in pretty much all parts of your life. Have you come up with some kind of a plan to be prepared for all this togetherness?
Have we come up with a plan?
I think we spent our 4 years our last 4 years together, and the last two of them we lived together. So we always been together a lot, and we loved it obviously because I proposed her to be my wife. So we wanted to spend our life together, but we never worked together so much like now. So you can't really prepare for that.
That's true. You're absolutely right.
We have done a lot of preparations, but since we are here, we are learning we are in a learning process all the time. And we are finding the best way to work together because we are very different. We are very alike in a lot of things, but we are very different. So we try to complete each other and to be our best that we can be.
That's a great strategy. In the remaining minutes that we have, I'm going to ask for 2 or 3 word answers to the 100 questions I still have left. Have you been here long enough to hear any misconceptions that Americans have about Israel or Israelis?
Well, we went to a gathering with friends, and actually the couple that we spoke to was older than we were, probably in their 40s or 50s, and we were just talking about football and life here in Ohio, and they were just telling us different things that we can do. And then they just, suddenly the man asked me, so is it true that all Israelis hate Americans? That's what I heard. So he was convinced that all Israelis don't like America or Americans. I don't know where he got this misconception. So I was just saying that the Middle East is a very big place. I'm Israeli. I was born and raised there. I've been there for 30 years. And I actually don't know any Israeli that hates America or Americans.
Most Israelis see America as the big brother.
That's why I'm so happy that we're here, that we can just tell our real story, and that people ask us questions. I'm happy about that.
Now, have you been here long enough to miss anything from home? Is there something that you miss, or something that you think you're going to miss?
I miss my family and friends, obviously, yes. Even if it's after 1 week already, because we are very connected. And soon one of my best friends is going to get married. A couple of best friends, they are going to get married, and some of them are going to give birth to their first children. So that's a little bit difficult to be here far away from them. But we are in touch. The world is small today, so we can be in touch through the Facebook and Skype and whatever. But we are feeling at home in here, so that's the important thing.
Now, have either of you ever been in a situation where one of those sirens went off and you had 10 or 45 seconds to get someplace safe? Have you ever been in that situation? Then my last question that I'm going to have time for today is, can you give us a 1 or 2 sentence idea of what that is like?
Well, we've actually experienced that a lot because we lived in Beersheba in the south of Israel. So we've experienced that every summer of our school, of university. That was for a few years. It's just really scary. No matter how many times you've been through it, you never feel safe. No matter if there's the dome, you still feel like you might not be okay, and it's just really scary and unfortunate.
Is there any way that you can begin to guess how, whether you stay for a year, whether you stay for the 2 years, how you will be different when you go back than when you came? Is there any way to know that?
I feel like the most important thing is that we will be even stronger as a couple, because we are experiencing something which is very special, working together and contribute to Israel and to learn from people. This is one thing. And the second thing, that we can learn a lot about Judaism, because I grew up non-religious at all. I wasn't observing anything. I was secular. And since we arrived here, I got the chance to visit 3 different synagogues in Rosh Hashanah, which is the holiday that starts the year for Jewish people. And I've been in a Reformic, Conservative, and Orthodox synagogue in one holiday, which I've never done.
You're doing more religion than you got in Israel, which
Exactly.
people would find very interesting. You have to come to America to get more religion. Is interesting, and it's true that even if you're Israeli, opposites attract, because you grew up Orthodox, you grew up secular, so even opposites attract even in Israel, right?
From the first second.
From the first second. Every few years, Israel sends the Akron Canton area their very own emissaries. For the next 2 years, this area will have the pleasure to host a young Israeli couple, Mayana and Shay, as our shlachim, our educational and cultural emissaries from Israel. that tiny little country. Today they gave us a personal perspective on their country and their thoughts on our country. Israel is called the Silicon Valley of the Mediterranean, third only to the U.S. and Canada in terms of number of companies listed in the NASDAQ. We hear about the hot spots, their politics, and their military. Today we got to hear about two young people, in many ways like young people everywhere, and their work the next year in the Akron Canton communities. Thank you for joining us on Forum 360. I'm Leslie Ungar, your host today.
Forum 360 is brought to you with support from Electric Impulse Communications, Kim and Harvey Nelson, Rubber City Radio Group, Akronist.com, AkronBuzz.com, Forum 360 supporters, and the Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron.